So, first of all, thank you guys all for coming today. I have to tell you, it's certainly an honor to be graced by all these important people, and so I appreciate that a lot. So Tani and I, we've been in business since 1997, all sorts of businesses. We only like to talk about the ones that worked. So that's what's going to happen. But so if there's one thing that we've discovered, and that is that the entrepreneur is truly the lifeblood of the United States. But it's not just like the single individual entrepreneur. The true machine, the true atlas that makes our free market system work is the entrepreneurial company. So with that in mind, hopefully you agree with me, I want to share with you my absolute hands down favorite quote from Theodore Roosevelt. He spoke these words on April 23rd, 1910. "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the company who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strive valiantly, who err and come up short again and again, but who know the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spend themselves for a worthy cause, who at best know in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if they fail, at least they fail while daring greatly, so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." So as we gather here, obviously we're celebrating a building, a structure, but I want everyone to know that this business is not this building. This business is the 150 plus souls who share common values, a common bond, and a common mission. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first guest speaker. Since 1997, Craig Sadonikow has been the president of American Construction Services and American Architectural in West Bend. Craig is a past board member for The Threshold, Boys and Girls Club of Washington County, West Bend Athletic Association, West Bend Waterways Foundation, West Bend Public Schools Foundation, Kettle Moraine YMCA, Eisenbaum Marathon Executive Committee, and Citizens Facility Advisory Committee of West Bend. Holy cow. That's impressive. He is a 1998 graduate of the Chamber of Commerce Leadership Greater West Bend program. He's currently a board member for the West Bend Economic Development Corporation and the West Bend Area Chamber of Commerce. Craig and his wife Jo have 4 daughters. Whew. He enjoys spending time with his wife and children, hunting, triathlons, and playing an occasional round of golf. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage my good friend and the mayor of West Bend, Craig Sadonikow.
Didn't have to raise the microphone there. Thank you, Tim. Welcome and congratulations to all of you. Senator, welcome back to West Bend. It's always a great day when you're in town. Keep fighting the fight. We appreciate it, and we're paying attention here in West Bend. Does anyone feel like we've got a bit of deja vu going on in the room right now? It does to me a little, because it seems like yesterday many of us gathered for your last new facility. And I know it was only 2-3 years ago, but time flies, so it's great to be back here. This community is truly blessed. Thank you to the organization for choosing to do business in West Bend, and believe me, those of us at City Hall know that you have choices of where to be. We appreciate you choosing to call West Bend your home. Your growth here certainly has been remarkable, thanks to your organization, to your leadership team, and to Tim and Tani and their entire family. I met Tim, and I told him a little earlier I thought today was supposed to be a roast, so that's not exactly what this is going to be. But I met Tim about 20 years ago when we were younger. Tim looked exactly the same as he does now, and I had a lot more hair. But we were changing out garbages at the Rotary Seafood Fest. And for a number of years there, I would say that we were acquaintances until a few years ago. We became what I consider now, as Tim mentioned, I feel as though we are good friends. He's a trusted advisor of mine, even though most times I don't think he knows I'm pimping him for information and for what to do next. So I certainly appreciate that. And I gave the little bit of background as a lead-in to probably the most obvious things that I could say to this group. And that is, Tim's a pretty impressive guy. He's a pretty inspirational guy and a pretty motivational guy, right? That seems pretty apparent, pretty obvious. I like to try to find out, partially because I'm working on becoming a better listener. I think my wife, who's here, will acknowledge that it's a work in progress. But I like to try and find out what impresses an impressive person and what motivates someone who's motivational and what inspires the inspirational. So in advance of speaking today, I've done a little bit of recon on Tim the last couple times that we've been out together, sharing a few beers. I tried to loosen him up, find out a little about what makes him tick so I could report that back to all of you today. So his answer to all three of those questions, what inspires him, what motivates him, what is inspirational to him, very simple, very poignant, and it's the 150 people that are inside of this building. He said without pausing that he's impressed by how you and your coworkers do your jobs. He's inspired by your passion for the corporate mission, and he's motivated to bring new ideas, new challenges to tackle, and new missions to undertake here. So what keeps Tim sharp and excited about the future is all of you inside this building. You being you allows Tim and the leadership team to be themselves. I also asked Tim, after a couple of more beers, what may make him a little nervous or a little apprehensive, and I found out a few things that don't make him nervous. He's not necessarily nervous about growing the organization. He's not necessarily apprehensive on trying to figure out ways to uncover the next way that you guys can all fight for the Constitution and fight to expand liberty in our country. And he's not skittish about trying to figure out how to work with, while sometimes competing against, an organization like the NRA. None of those things faze him. What does make him a little nervous, aside probably from me dragging this out and finding out what makes him nervous, what it is are the days that he knows he's coming into work to work the phones. He's nervous because he knows it's pretty difficult to compete with all of you, to compete with the best of the best, to compete with the 4 or 5 or 8 or 10 video screens that are grading and judging and making sure every day that each one of you is servicing your customer the best way that they can. So he said a lot that night, and I took it to heart. So finally, from my perspective, a few observations as mayor. Having witnessed your growth these last handful of years, after getting to know several of you personally, and then after having a tour around this facility yesterday and meeting quite a few more of you, I found out that as an organization, you guys are a little strange. You come here out of passion, right? You're different from most folks. You come here out of passion, you work 8 or 10 or 12 hours a day. Some of you are working weekends, some of you are working the night shift or a split shift. You're all coming in here on Thursday mornings for the meeting. You perform your work not just for a paycheck, but because you truly believe in what you do. And that is pretty unique and strange and weird and awesome, all rolled into one. After all of that, after the 8 or 10 or 12 hours, after all the motivation and all the phone calls and the marketing and the finances and legal and creative thinking, you're not like most regular people because you don't go home at the end of the day. You go out into this community and you donate and you dedicate your time and your energy and your talents, and in many, many cases, your finances to virtually every nonprofit organization, every fundraising opportunity or entity, and every community need that we have. Your work for the community does not end at the end of your work shift, and it certainly doesn't end at the front door. So on behalf of a grateful, grateful city and a grateful nation, thank you to all of you. Thanks to the folks that I know are in the building working right now. Thanks to the leadership team, Tim and Tani, thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Wow, thank you very much, Craig. That was really cool. So it is now my honor to introduce someone who I've actually never met personally, but certainly I've heard him speak, seen his actions from afar, and certainly I've admired him from afar. So United States Senator Ron Johnson came to Washington, D.C. because the federal government is bankrupting America. That's the first line on his webpage. I'm like, God, I love this guy. He thinks it is important for citizen legislators to ally with those who are seriously facing that reality. Ron's manufacturing background has taught him to attack the root cause of a problem, not mere symptoms. He believes huge deficits, slow economic activity, high unemployment, and woefully inadequate job creation are severe symptoms of the problem, not the root cause. What's the root cause, you may ask? The ever-expanding size, scope, and cost of government. United States Senator Ron Johnson is the chairman of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee and also serves on the Budget, Foreign Relations, and Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committees. He resides in Oshkosh, Wisconsin with his wife Jane. They have 3 children and 2 grandchildren. Please help me welcome United States Senator Ron Johnson.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a real uplifting discussion here, doesn't it? First of all, congratulations to Tim and everybody here at Delta. This is a fabulous-looking building and a highly successful business, and I just want to congratulate you all for that. Tim mentioned a little bit about mission statements. I want to talk a couple mission statements. Let me first start out that we retooled our Senate office mission statement. We had it in the first term a couple sentences long, and state staff was kind of working on retooling that and presented to me as, fine and dandy mission statement, but then based on what I've seen my staff do in the first 6 years, I went to Tony and Julie and MJ and Ginger and I said, I think we can actually make this a whole lot simpler. A 3-word mission statement to help people. And of course, there's all kinds of bullet points underneath that to help them navigate the federal bureaucracy, Medicare, Medicaid, VA benefits, that type of thing. My own personal mission, my bullet point is to help people understand. And so I don't want to speak too long up here yammering on. What I'd like to do, if I've got some time, is open it up to questions. So start thinking about some questions, and anything's going to be fair game. Tim, you mentioned the man in the arena quote, and that's one of my favorite. I actually had that printed out and mounted on a plaque for my what is now my my chief of staff, Tony Blanda, who I don't see. I think he's out in the car working. But he stepped up the plate and saved our Catholic school system. And that is a powerful statement of just people getting in. There he is, there's Tony right there, a real servant leader. Former lieutenant colonel in the Army, but also saved our Catholic school system. But that man in the arena quote just describes what really made this country great. Those types of individuals that, against all odds, didn't sit on the sidelines, didn't sit there and carp and complain and, just criticize, but actually got in, got dirty, got muddy, got dusty, and got the job done. About 100 years before Teddy Roosevelt had that quote, another famous Frenchman, Alexis de Tocqueville, toured around America and wrote a very famous book. And just to encapsulate what he found about America was something very unique, certainly the span of human history about our country. And what he found what made this country great is that it really is premised on an idea, on a promise that we all embrace. And what in so many cases makes this country great are organizations like this, the civic institutions of America, whether it's the places of employment, the businesses, the civic organizations like Rotary or the Chamber, our churches. And I just came from Montenegro and Southeast Europe, the Balkans. You've heard that description of the Balkanization. What is so unique about America is we have all that melting pot of races and ethnicity. And in the Balkans, the different races, the different ethnic groups, they kill each other. They go to war. They sparked World War I and World War II from that very region. And yet all those different races from all over the world, all the different ethnic groups, representatives of those groups have come to America and by and large gotten along and produced a marvel in human history. Do you realize America is 5% of the world's population, yet we produce 20 to 25% of the world's goods? It's not because of Washington, D.C. It's because of people like you that want to build something, that have aspirations, that innovate, that build, that create. That's what made this nation great. And then you combine America, a group of individuals from all over the world, with what I consider is probably the greatest mission statement ever produced, ever put down on a piece of paper from the hand of a human being. And of course, it's contained in our Declaration of Independence. You've all heard it, but let me repeat it slowly. We hold these truths to be self-evident. I just love that. It's just so obvious that all men, I'll throw in women, are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator. Kind of an important concept. These rights, these unalienable rights, aren't granted by government. They're not granted by a king. They come from our Creator. And those unalienable rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, when I was younger, when I read that mission statement off, life, liberty, I think, wow, those are pretty important concepts. Pursuit of happiness always struck me somewhat frivolous in comparison to life and liberty. But the older I get, as I've had 3 children, actually now 3 grandchildren. I've got a three-week-old little baby grandboy now. What I always told my kids that I wished for them was happiness, to be happy. Understanding that is no easy pursuit. And the only way you achieve happiness, first of all, is you have to earn your own success. Nobody achieves happiness being dependent. Nobody achieves happiness without individual liberty and freedom. And so our form of government, with that mission statement, designed primarily to protect our individual liberty, but that mission statement combined with something else that I thought was pretty unique when I researched this. Do you realize Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations and published it the exact same year as our Declaration of Independence, 1776. It's the combination of that description of a free market competitive system guided by that invisible hand of millions of consumers allocating capital to products and services like Delta produces here that other Americans, other people around the world value. Combined with our form of government, limited, primarily designed to protect our individual liberty. That's what made this nation great, combined with the people that take advantage of that system. So as we move forward in trying to address these enormous challenges, and trust me, we have enormous challenges, $20 trillion in debt, projected deficit over the next 30 years, $129 trillion. It's incomprehensible, it's unsustainable. We need to realize that the solutions aren't going to lie in the federal government. Yeah, we're going to have to pass some laws, we're going to start devolving power and respect the fact it's individuals, it's individual liberty that's going to get us out of these holes. And that's what we need out of our elected officials, to have a little modesty. Not be so arrogant, not thinking that we in Washington, D.C. can design these systems. Haven't done a very good job. The solution lies in understanding our limitations, the federal government, doing what only the federal government can do, defense of this nation, the defense of the homeland, laying out a certain level of common sense regulations and laws to be the rules of the road, and then basically get out of the way so that people like Tim and all of you who work for Delta can really unleash the real potential of America. So again, congratulations on what you've done with that. If you've got some time, I'm happy to answer any questions you got. Well, great. Tim, again, thank you much. God bless you guys.
All right, Senator Johnson, thank you very much for coming here. Thanks for your time and your words of wisdom. Craig, thank you for your words of wisdom. Thanks for not making it a roast. And Father Nate, hopefully Father Nate's still here. Yes, thank you so much, Father Nate, for blessing the building. That really meant a lot to Tani and me. And of course, thank all of you for coming. Chamber of Commerce, what an honor to have you guys here and let us cut the magic ribbon. That was pretty cool. Giant scissors. It's actually real. And everybody else, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. And that's it. So take care.